Hi, sixth grade champions. Today we continue our reading of Granted, which is a very interesting book I'm finding out. Magical, mythical maybe. And we are beginning today on page 22 at the top of the page. I encouraged you yesterday to complete an art piece related to this story of the tree. So that's kind of where we find ourselves right now. And I'll begin reading at the top of page 22. Squint paused. He appeared to scan the page he was reading, double-checking the figures. She wasn't sure, but Ophelia thought she saw the fairy's broad shoulders slump slightly. 12, he finished. The swarm of fairies was suddenly abuzz, thrumming like a hive of bees. That's it? 12? Charlie whispered under his breath, adding a low whistle. Yesterday it was 30. Ophelia hushed him again, though she kept her elbows to herself this time. 12 was low, really low. The number of grantings had gone down steadily over the years since Sophia had been born. Certainly, and long before then, but she could never remember there being so few. It could only mean that the supply of magic had ebbed even further. So much for Charlie's feel-good kind of day. Please, please, settle down, Squint requested, waiting for the humming to subside. We still have a job to do, so let's do it. He nodded to another fairy, the young one with the golden hair who knew about nut shortages, who took her place in front of the huge tree with its yellow leaves, standing proudly in the center of the glade. 12, Ophelia thought to herself, out of so many. Who would even notice 12 wishes being granted? Who would even care? Except she knew the answer. Those 12 people would care, even if they had no idea just how lucky they were or were about to be. And her own kind would care, of course. Every fairy gasping and murmuring in this glade cared deeply. Hence, the gasping and the murmuring. Let the lottery commence, Squint commanded. The golden-haired fairy spread her wings and threw up her arms. Always the same ritual, the same motions. Ophelia felt one of Charlie's stubby-fingered hands grab hers as every fairy in the haven watched with waiting breaths. The great tree shuddered. It could grow and shrink as needed, blossom and shed in a heartbeat. Its leaves never changed color or shape, but they increased or decreased in number with each passing day. With every dropped coin, every shooting star, every earnestly whispered want was up there somewhere. Today, it had exactly 5,394,234 leaves, and it was about to lose 12 of them. As Sophia watched, the first leaf drifted down, gently rocking back and forth before landing in the fairy's cupped hands. She read out the name, Micah Walters. Micah Walters, the crowd chanted after her, the first of the fortunate ones. Ophelia recited the name along with the others. She knew nothing else about him. Everything the grantors would need to know was inscribed on that leaf, written in its tiny striations, to be translated by the recorders back at the office. Micah's age, his wish, his location. It would all be read and submitted to the guild, and then eventually, when Micah's wish was granted, entered into the log books. Another dream fulfilled. For now, all that mattered was the name. Shania Everett. Shania Everett, nearly 1,000 fairies repeated. The leaves fell one after another, dropping from the impossibly large tree into the young fairy's waiting hands. She read the names and waited for the echo. Then she dropped the leaf into a basket with its brothers and sisters. Ophelia counted each leaf as it fell. 50 years ago, it would have been impossible to keep track, back when hundreds of wishes were granted each day. It had never been more than that, not since the system had been put in place. but it was still more than a fairy had fingers and toes for. Still, you make do with what you've got. 12 wishes were better than none. The last leaf dropped. The girl caught it and read the name she found there. Cassara Quinn. Cassara Quinn, Ophelia echoed. She liked the name. She hoped Cassara had wished for something good, something better than a new car or something smarmy like for some sweaty boy with skater bangs and pouty lips to kiss her. What a waste of a perfectly good wish that was. If you wanted a boy to kiss you, Ophelia guessed, all you had to do was ask him. She was suddenly self-conscious of Charlie's clammy hand in hers and pulled it free, crossing her arms in front of her. The girl placed Cassara's wish with the others, then took the basket over to Squint, who counted them again, just to be sure. He nodded his approval. 12 wishes, 12 assignments, 12 grantors who would be given permission to go out into the field and make those 12 dreams come true. No way she would be one of them. There were too many fairies with seniority over her. Charlie had been a grantor for 3 years before she even joined the guild, and he never got assignments either, which meant another day in the office, filing paperwork, studying maps, brushing up on her humanity, biting her nails, what was left of them. She would go work out, maybe, fly a few laps around the treetops, maybe get in some self-defense training, though her instructor said she didn't need any more the last time she pinned him down to the floor. Or maybe she would just take the afternoon off and go home and binge on cocoa beans before dusting her walls for the 17th time that week. 12, Charlie said again, not needing to whisper this time as the whole crowd was chattering about the same thing. Just hope to heaven none of them wish for world peace again. That's the spirit, Ophelia remarked, but she knew what he meant. Another example of a wasted wish, though still better than a sloppy kiss. The problem with world peace was that it never lasted. Yes, if you wished for it and your wish was chosen, the grantors would make it happen, but for a fleeting moment only. And then the world went back to its usual routine. The last time that particular wish was granted, it lasted for all of 40 heartbeats, and fairy heartbeats at that, which are considerably faster. Less than a minute with no war, no bloodshed, no beating, no bullying. Nobody really noticed. That was the thing about humans Ophelia knew. They spent their whole lives wanting, and that wanting caused them to do terrible things to one another. It was a shame. It would be so much easier, she thought, if we could just grant every wish. Then maybe the people who made them wouldn't fight so much. But it wasn't possible to grant every wish. It was getting harder and harder to grant any at all. Chapter 5. The great tree was the center of the haven and the pillar upon which the whole fairy way of life rested. It had loomed over the glade since long before Ophelia's founding day. It was older than most of the fairies who lived in the haven, in fact. But it hadn't been there from the beginning. The history books told of a time when the fairies themselves, and not the great tree, decided which wishes to grant, based on their own whims and heart whispers. Back then, the fae folk roamed the countryside freely, hiding from humans, but still gleefully meddling in their affairs. It was a time when there were still plenty of places to hide, and the haven was little more than a gathering ground, a secluded spot for Ophelia's ancestors to come and make music and revel in shared tales of mischief and wonder, swapping stories of dreams fulfilled and narrow escapes. That was centuries ago, however. So many seasons had passed since then. So much had changed. Humans had changed. They expanded, exploded. built vast cities connected by seemingly infinite stretches of road, crossing and curving like the veins on a leaf. They spread like moss on wet rock, replacing forests with boundaries, wildflowers with wheat stalks, wooded trails with iron rails. They created machines and factories that ate fire and belched smoke. They took to the mountains, the oceans, the skies, and they became more and more dangerous. With their flashing cameras and their printed papers and their insatiable need to know everything, uncover every secret, catalog every creature, explain every mystery. The Fae folk felt it, this sea swell, this shift. Magic and wonder began to drain from the world. The amount of dust produced by the fairy spring started to diminish. Before long, it seemed as if their entire way of life was in danger, foretelling a world where there was no such thing as their kind. So they retreated, holed up in their beautiful havens, securing their borders with enchantments designed to keep humans out. A system was put into place to carefully regulate the use of what magic remained, to make certain that enough wishes were granted to produce the magic dust needed to preserve the haven and protect the fairies who lived there. Enough wishes granted today to ensure that more could be tomorrow. And a guild of grantors especially trained to make those wishes come true. But which wishes? Because in a world of waning wonder, there was no way to grant them all, or half, or even 100,000th. In the time it took to argue over which dream should come true and which shouldn't, the magic could simply dry up, leaving them with no dust at all. And so generations ago, the most talented whisperers among the Fae sang their sweet songs, and the great trees were born across the world, shooting from seedlings to saplings to giants in less than a day. The trees had their roots buried deep into the lines of magic that ran along the forest and into the mountains beneath them, tapping into every dream and desire. And a leaf dropped from a great tree's boughs constituted a promise to the one who wished it there. There was no debate. The trees were impartial. The leaves fell at random. It was most agreed, the fairest way. There were some who grumbled, often under their breath and only with those who they knew shared their opinions, that wishes should not be granted based on the luck of the draw. But even the naysayers couldn't deny that the system worked. It kept them safe for 100 years. It preserved their way of life, whether they were right or wrong. Wishes could be argued over afterward, over cups of tea and cookies, enjoyed in a haven made possible by the fact that any wishes were granted at all. I think we'll stop there. And tomorrow we'll begin with chapter 6. And if you want to read ahead, go for it. Granted. Look forward to it. See you tomorrow.